In this video, I'm gonna show you exactly what foods fuel cancer. Whether you're a cancer survivor that wants to lower your risk of a cancer recurrence, or if you just want to prevent cancer from ever happening, then this video is for you. There are foods that help and foods that hurt. Starting with number one, processed meats. You know it's pretty serious when even the World Health Organization states that there's a clear link between processed meats and cancer. Processed meats have been clearly linked with increasing your risk of cancer or a cancer recurrence. If you're wanting to reduce your risk of cancer, then this is where you should start. But in this video, I'm also gonna show you exactly what foods to include in your nutrition if you wanna help prevent cancer. It's so important to avoid foods that are known to cause cancer, but it's just as important to include foods that are known to fight off cancer. More on that in just a little bit. We know that processed meats are linked to cancer, but what actually qualifies as a processed meat? A processed meat is a meat that's had anything done to it to prolong or preserve its shelf life. This includes things like sandwich meat, hot dogs, sausages, or a charcuterie board. Fresh or frozen meats would not be considered processed. Nearly all scientific evidence focusing on processed meats and cancer has actually been on red meat, things like beef or pork. But what about white meat? Processed meats like chicken or turkey? The answer is we don't really know. It's assumed that white processed meat would be a safer option compared to the red meat alternative. But until more research is done, we don't know with 100% certainty the real cancer risk associated with white processed meat. So here's where to start with limiting or avoiding processed meat. Of course, some people will find that they didn't really like processed meats in the first place, so they just cut it out completely. Done deal. Your cancer risk is now a lot lower. But some people really like these types of foods and they just can't cut it out completely. If that's you, that's totally understandable and that's okay. It's sometimes difficult to completely avoid processed meats altogether. So instead, try limiting your consumption. Only eat processed meats at special occasions or on certain days of the week. For example, a sandwich at a picnic or a hot dog at your nephew's birthday party. You could also opt for white processed meat alternative. Instead of a ham sandwich, try a chicken sandwich. You don't have to be extreme. Even cutting back in a small way will still lower your cancer risk. We can also further lower your cancer risk by including foods that actually fight off cancer cells. It's super important to staying cancer-free, but more on that in a little bit. If you want to use foods to limit your risk of cancer or a cancer recurrence, then limiting or avoiding processed meats is step number one. But this next food is something hardly anyone talks about. A lot of cancer survivors don't even know about this. The second food that you need to avoid because it actually fuels cancer cells is alcohol. Alcohol is known to increase your risk of cancer, so ideally you would avoid it altogether. Now, you might be thinking, if alcohol truly does increase your risk of cancer, then why don't cultures like France or Italy, who drink more alcohol, have higher rates of cancer? They drink alcohol all the time, every day for lunch and supper. Why aren't their cancer rates higher? Well, the truth is, their cancer rates are higher. And look, it's understandable alcohol plays a big part in our lives, socially and culturally. A breast cancer survivor that I work with in the Cancer Freedom Program really struggled completely eliminating alcohol. Her family had a tradition of sharing a special drink on birthdays. She stressed about having this drink. This cocktail meant so much to her in terms of connection with her family, but she also really worried about her risk of her cancer coming back. She felt trapped. But much like processed meats, alcohol is something we want to at least limit, if not avoid altogether. The more you can lower your alcohol consumption, the lower your risk of cancer or a cancer recurrence. So if you don't want to completely stop drinking alcohol, then is there a safe amount you can drink? Maybe one drink a month or a week? Well, here's what you need to know. The amount of alcohol you drink is proportional to your cancer risk. So the less alcohol you drink, the lower the risk, and the more alcohol you drink, the higher the risk. If you cannot or you don't want to completely eliminate alcohol, then you can just limit it to special occasions or drinks on the weekends. You can also choose alcoholic beverages that have a lower alcohol percentage, like a light beer. This will further limit the amount of alcohol you're drinking. Or ideally, you could swap out your alcoholic choices for non-alcoholic alternatives. There's been a complete explosion of non-alcohol beers and wines on the market, and any of these would be a good option to swap out for one of your alcoholic drinks. But when we talk about foods fueling cancer, there's actually a big secret I have to let you in on. When we look online about what foods could potentially fuel cancer, most of the information online is actually driven by fear. It's easy to find conflicting opinions and theories. One place will say that dairy is a safe option, and another place will say that dairy actually increases your risk of cancer. Some people even say to me, look, just being alive causes cancer. There's so much out there that people say causes cancer. Just live your life. Don't worry about it. Well, this is a really dangerous mindset. Of course, if you're watching this video, you want to lower your risk of cancer and do everything you can. There's not much we know about cancer with 100% certainty. But we do know that processed meats and alcohol increases your risk. Even if you completely and totally avoid alcohol and processed meats, you might still end up being diagnosed with cancer. It's true. It's kind of like wearing a seatbelt when you drive. It's not 100% guaranteed to keep you alive in a car crash, but it's definitely going to help. Avoiding processed meats and alcohol is exactly the same. But here's the actual truth about food fueling cancer cells. You now know all the foods that have truthfully been linked to cancer. There's just two: processed meats and alcohol. Avoid these two foods and your risk of cancer will be lower. But if you truly want to lower your risk of cancer and use foods to do that, then you have to know something else. What will actually lower your risk of cancer or a cancer recurrence is not avoiding certain foods, it's actually including specific foods. If you can be strategic about what foods to actually include in your diet, then you can lower your risk of cancer or a cancer recurrence. It's actually about how you fuel your body, foods to include rather than foods to avoid. So let's dive into what foods you can actually start including to lower your risk of cancer. This is where you're gonna make the biggest impact. Here are 2 foods to start including today, starting with number 1. Eat more beans. Beans and legumes have consistently been linked to lowering your risk of cancer or a cancer recurrence across many different populations and in many different countries. Beans and legumes have been included in many cancer guidelines and in many cancer prevention guidelines, and this is the place to start. Now, this can look like a bunch of different things: refried beans on a taco or chickpeas added to a salad. The unfortunate part, though, is that in North America, we don't eat enough beans or legumes to really lower your risk of cancer or cancer recurrence. So if you like beans, if you like legumes, then start including them more. This is where you can make a big impact in reducing your risk. The second food that will lower your risk of cancer is dark green leafy veggies. When targeting dark green leafy vegetables, we're actually targeting 2 things: fiber and antioxidant. In cultures that eat more fiber, we actually know that their risk of cancer or cancer recurrence is actually lower. And we want that for you too. Eating dark green leafy veggies will actually increase your fiber, but it's more than that. It's antioxidants too. Antioxidants play a critical role in protecting your body from the development of cancer or cancer cells. Each and every day, our bodies are exposed to oxidative stress, from our environment to the foods we eat as well. Foods can cause oxidative stress, like processed foods or sugary drinks, but certain foods can also neutralize oxidative stress. When your body is under oxidative stress, it creates free radicals. These free radicals cause cancer in cancer cells. We need more antioxidants in your nutrition to neutralize these free radicals and prevent the damage. Here's how. Eat dark green leafy vegetables. If you can eat more vegetables, you'll have higher antioxidant levels and then more antioxidants available to neutralize free radicals in your body. But look, if you really want to reduce your risk of cancer or cancer recurrence, then you've got to start thinking about exercise. There's only so much you can do with your food, and it's actually exercise that has the biggest impact on reducing your risk of cancer. After over a decade of research and looking at tens of thousands of women, we now know that hitting targeted exercise levels can actually lower your risk of cancer or cancer recurrence by up to 59%. You can cut your risk in more than half. That's pretty impressive. I want to show you exactly how to do this. That's why I've linked up this next video here on how to start incorporating targeted exercise into your daily routine. This is important stuff, and this is what's going to make the difference. I'll see you in the next video.